Charlie, you were down at development camp today. Give us all the notes. Tell us all of the things that you learned about these young Flyers. I'm sure there are copious amounts of things you would like to share.
Yeah, not really. Day one, just
all the time.
Hey, now, day one, just to give people some background, day one of development camp, at least in terms of what they do on the ice, it's always pretty light. It's not the drills where you can actually watch and learn something about where the players stand from a talent standpoint. It's very much like skating drills where they're going maybe 70%, shooting drills where it's like, okay, yeah, they're just like picking corners and hoping they hit it. Like, it's not a day where there's much you can gain in terms of evaluation. We do interview a lot of people on day one. So we interviewed a lot of players to just run through the list. We interviewed Oliver Bonk, Spencer Gill, Jett Luchanko, Hunter McDonald, Noah Powell, Massimo Rizzo, and Carter Sotheran. So we interviewed quite a few players. And yeah, I mean, it seems like they're all happy to be in development camp. Luchanko is a good skater. Like, he comes as advertised in terms of skating. He can skate real fast. Spencer Gill is very tall and very skinny. He needs to put on a lot of weight. The one guy actually who I would say, if anybody stood out to me, it was Noah Powell, who is the 5th round pick they took out of the USHL. He was a redraft, so he got passed over in the draft last year, then had a breakout season this year with his USHL team. He looked good. He's not a good skater yet, but the feet are always moving. Like, he's high effort. You're hoping that maybe as he gets more power into his strides, maybe that turns into him being at least an okay skater. But he's just one of those guys where you notice him. He's got size, but his shot is heavy. It was getting, a quick release off that shot. It was coming in hard. And he just, like, once he gets going, you could just see how he can frighten opposing defenses when he gets rolling. And one cool thing about Noah Powell that I don't think a lot of fans knew, I knew it because I did some research post-draft. He is, like, mostly deaf. Not completely.
Interesting.
But he basically was born with with significant hearing loss, and he wears things in his ears, and he's become an extremely good lip reader. Like, when you interview him, and you can see it when you're watching him on the ice, like, he is staring intently at the coach so he can read the coach's lips, or her, because Kara Morey, the Princeton head coach, is at this camp too. But he's reading the coach's lips to basically match it up with what does register from a hearing standpoint. But he's a completely, he's a completely functional, and just it's not holding him back at all, and it's really cool. But yeah, we interviewed him, and he seems like a really nice kid. So it's just one of those cool little things that he's obviously had to overcome in his life, and you got to give him a lot of credit.
And Charlie, when you look at the bright side, he'll never get called off sides on an audible.
He doesn't have to listen to John Tortorella.
That was the big joke. That was the big joke in the media room, was that, if he gets to the NHL quick, that all the other players are going to be jealous of him because he can tune out John Tortorella.
Yeah. What a gift.
So you talked to Massimo Rizzo. That's one of the guys I kind of wanted to talk about because he's kind of this unknown commodity. The Flyers acquired him last year in what is essentially the Tony DeAngelo trade, all that nonsense that went on with the buyout. One of the Kasha brothers writes, but it was the Tony DeAngelo trade. Did we learn anything about him today? How'd he look, etc.?
Not really. As I said, I'll get a better read tomorrow because, his big thing is size. He's just not that big. So it'll be very interesting to see how he holds up in the more battle-oriented drills, which usually start on day 2. That's like day 2, day 3. So that'll be tomorrow. And then Friday is when we'll really get to see that. And I'll try to get a read on, what his strength's looking like. I asked him, though, if he saw himself as a center or a wing at the NHL level. And he basically said he could do both. To me, that tells me that he's probably going to be a wing. Because if he really thought he could be a center, he would say, I'm a center. If he's saying I could do both, that hints to me that he's probably a wing, especially given his size and especially given the fact that he's not a blue chip prospect. I just know there are some people who wonder, he's played center before coming up, through college. There's some people who wonder, could he help out down the middle? I think he's a wing, and I think he without saying as much, he kind of knows
that. Since you mentioned size, Denver Barky, 102 points last year in the OHL, had a great playoff as well. Last we saw him, it looked like he was about 14 years old and like an underdeveloped 14. Has he hit puberty yet? Like, has he had that growth spurt, put on any weight? Is he still looking like a little kid? Anything on Denver Barky?
Well, we didn't interview him, so I can't speak. From what you I can't speak to what he looks like in terms of his face, because I think that's a real driving part of it, is that when you look at his face and you hear him speak, like he looks like a child. He does. Yeah. On the ice, I didn't notice him looking significantly taller. Maybe he's bulked up a little, but he's never going to be a big guy. Like, that's just not him. There's only so much you can put on that kind of frame and continue to do what you want to do on the ice from a skill standpoint. So he's just always going to be a small guy. The question is whether he has the skill and also the tenacity to make up for his weaknesses from a physical standpoint. But we'll probably talk to him tomorrow, and I'll give you a better read on, whether he seems older or if he still looks very, very young.
Hey, Charlie, it's me, Denver Barky.
Yeah, he's remember me speaking real deep.
Yeah.
That would be actually stupendous if he did that. Like, you look at him, he's got lifts in his shoes. Like, he's on like little
three children in a trench coat.
He's on top. Anyway, so that's Charlie's going to be down at development camp all week, and we will have more news and notes coming out. Just, about all the prospects who are there. Obviously, Alexei Kolosov, there was question whether or not he would be there. He isn't. Was there anything further on that, or is it just like, he's not here at the end?
No, well, what Briere told us yesterday, I didn't transcribe this yesterday because the main focus was Matvei Michkov, but obviously people are still concerned about Kolosov, which I get. Like, when Elliot Friedman puts it in a column, people are going to freak out. From what I understand, the Flyers still expect him to come. When we asked Danny Briere about it yesterday, he said, look, everything we've been told is that he's going to come. The reason why he's not at development camp is because he had a really long season. He's already played in 3 pro years, and that tends to be our cutoff for like our guys anyway, that like once they play 3 pro years, they don't have to do development camp anymore. So we just basically told them, you can have the summer. Like, don't worry about it. That said, I mean, these are just things that, like, you do think about. Like, they brushed off the Cutter Gauthier thing too when he missed development camp, and they were like, oh no, it's no big deal, we're good. When in reality it was, oh no, we're real bad, we just can't tell you. So you do have to, take everything you hear with a little bit of a grain of salt. But my understanding is that they think he's coming. Like, they think Kolosov is coming. And Briere straight up said yesterday, he's like, he's under contract, so he can't really play anywhere else. Then he kind of laughed and said, well, I guess Fedotov stayed. But then he said, look, his team, like Fedotov's team and Fedotov himself, both got punished. So it's hard for me to imagine that, like, this is what Danny said. He says, it's hard for me to imagine that they would do that again, given the fact that, like, those punishments from the IAHF were real. Like, Fedotov can't, like, play in international hockey for a while because of everything that went down. So my guess is that he's going to be there, but, like, obviously you can't completely dismiss something when Elliot Friedman's tweeting it. But everything I've heard is that they think he's good and they think he'll be here at camp in September. I guess we'll see.
We all silly like the mayor.